I want to turn to Nigel Farage, by the way, just a brilliant leader in England. He's been leader of Brexit, too, led all along in that. But I want to turn to where we are now in the impeachment, the Trump rallies versus the impeachment implosion. I want to start a little bit first on the Trump rallies. You know, he did another one I talked about yesterday, I think briefly, in Wildwood, New Jersey. And I think it's important to understand these rallies are, first of all, obviously, in the rallies, people have to buy tickets. And my husband and I went to one here in Texas, and you had to buy a ticket. And, you know, just the spirit, the happiness, the upbeat nature of people at those rallies. It is just a happy group of America-loving people. And there's not vitriol, there's not anger, there's not hatred. There's just the enthusiasm of wanting to hear a president who is really not changing American thought. He's actually saying things that Americans have been saying to each other in their homes, in their families, in their communities, around the country for decades. He is speaking about, in some ways, President Trump is, you know, he is Republican and he's on the Republican ticket, but he is really just standing up for the idea of America. That's what he's talking about. And that's why people are so drawn to him. They love hearing a person, a president, a leader, unabashedly proud to be American, to stand up for America, to reassert America's goodness, to fight back against the efforts of the American left in academia, politics, and everywhere else to denigrate the idea of America. People are not personally drawn in some cultish way to President Trump. They are drawn to the passion that he expresses about America, the goodness, the love of America. So on his rallies, he had this rally in New Jersey. There was actually a tweet from the president's, I think I don't know if he's his campaign manager, but Brad Parscale, in this rally in Wildwood, New Jersey. 26%, and you know, when you register, you have to fill out a form to get it, so they know who you are. And they can take those names and run them through their databases, the voter databases. 26% of the attendees at Wildwood, 26 were Democrats. So that's over 1/4 of the people there wildly, happily cheering. 10% did not vote in 2016. These are people, and I'm telling you, not just 2016, but President Trump brought in 2016 many people who hadn't voted for decades. And in this coming election, he's bringing more people in. And people get out of voting for during elections for a lot of reasons. A lot of it is just plain old disgust with the political ruling class that never seems to be listening to the people. This what Nigel Farage was hitting at. The people of two different countries said, we don't like the Constitution you came up with. And the EU ruling elites just jammed it through anyway, did it anyway. But these people in this country finally recognize we have a president who's listening to the people, who's going to stand up for the ideas he said he'd stand up for. People are excited. So they had, for this venue that fit, I think, whatever it was, 17,000 people, they had 158,000 requested tickets. 73,000 of those tickets were voters they could identify. And then again, 10% or over 10% didn't vote in 2016. 26% were Democrats. So you had a rally in New Jersey where you had new voters and Democrat voters cheering the president on. Second is at the rallies, and this again was true in Wildwood, New Jersey, President Trump is perfectly willing to openly talk about the insane sham nature of this impeachment. This is a man who does not have a guilty conscience. This is a man proud of his leadership of this country, proud of his interactions with Zelensky of Ukraine, and very comfortable telling America in plain English, this is a sham, this is a railroad, this is a witch hunt. I've done nothing wrong. These are the words and the actions of an innocent man, and it resonates with the American people. So this is a man doing these rallies, bringing people in, openly denouncing the Democrats and talking about the impeachment as just a sham. And I think that is these kinds of things I'm talking about are starting to resonate within the GOP and the Senate. I want to play something. There was actually, so where we are right now, I think today the final questions of the senators of both sides, you know, the senators are essentially the jury. They're able to ask questions of the House managers who presented their case and the GOP, the White House lawyers representing President Trump. So there's been talk all week that the GOP, the majority of the U.S. Senate, did not have sufficient votes to simply vote to acquit, which is what many people want. I want, many people want. Get this behind us. This is a sham. We don't have to keep pretending there's something real about it and dig in with more witnesses. In any case, earlier this week, there were reports that said, the GOP doesn't have the votes to acquit, and there were rumors that we may have to call witnesses. If we can't acquit, which is to find President Trump not guilty, move on, then you may have to call witnesses. Well, I think things are changing, and now there's talk out of Washington that the GOP does have sufficient votes to move to acquit. I'm going to tell you some of the factors that are in play there. Number one, President Trump is supposed to give his State of the Union next week. I think there's a little bit going on in the Republicans' minds, picturing, because everybody knows when President Trump does a State of the Union or does other formal speeches, the American people rally behind him. He is strong in his speeches. He is not tentative. He is not apologetic. He is not looking for compromise. He's standing up for exactly what he said he was going to do when he ran. I think a lot of senators don't like that picture of sitting there during a State of the Union with cameras panning to them, and they are the ones who will not move this along to just acquit the president. I also think there's just a sense in Washington when people watch these rallies, watch President Trump at the Wildwood, New Jersey rally, many other rallies, just thinking, this is the wrong fight to fight. I mentioned I called them the treacherous trio yesterday, and I want to make a little bit of a distinction about them. I think that one of the three, Mitt Romney from Utah, is entirely driven by self-interest, by ego, by malice. Has been criticized and mocked by President Trump a few times. He's just driven by ego, malice, and pettiness. And he would happily continue attacking President Trump through perpetuating this impeachment trial if he thought it wouldn't hurt him. But he is way down in the polls now in Utah, and a Utah member of the state house in Utah, the state government, a state representative in Utah, has introduced a bill to get to the point, make it law in Utah that the voters can recall a duly elected member of the U.S. House or Senate. That's how mad they are in Utah. They're mad at this guy, at Mitt Romney. It's a Republican member of the Utah House introducing a bill saying, maybe we got to make it possible to pull this guy back. He simply is, we don't like anything he's doing. So that was a great thing. So I think in the Senate, they're watching the president's popularity and they're thinking, that this is not playing well. We have nowhere to go with this. And, I think a lot of them are starting to think, wait a minute, we're going to be okay. We Republicans, we're going to go along with this John Bolton, breaking presidential conferences, breaking the executive privilege and call him, but we're going to protect the identity of this super secret, everyone knows who it is, whistleblower. I mean, there's just so much about the whole scene that makes them just look morally vacant, morally weak, just unwilling to stand up. But I want to play for you something. I had no idea how dang funny Senator Rick Scott of Florida is. Senator Rick Scott of Florida did a little video, and he is obviously, it's his first term in the U.S. Senate. He's been governor of Florida. He's up there in the Senate. He's been listening to the Senate impeachment proceedings. And Senator Rick Scott did a video. I want to play that for you. We'll talk a little bit. He had something else very funny he put up. But first I want to play, if Matt, the one, if you have it ready, this is a video of Senator Rick Scott of Florida talking about the impeachment proceedings.
Hi, I'm Rick Scott. As you may have heard, I've been taken hostage along with 99 other people in the U.S. Capitol. We are receiving only milk and water, and we are being subjected to the cruel and unusual punishment of listening to the rantings of Adam Schiff, a person from a parallel universe. On a slightly more serious note, everything that is happening in Washington around this impeachment fiasco is political theater. None of it is real, and nothing will come of it. This entire drama that has consumed our federal government for months should have been conducted at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, not at the U.S. Capitol. Oh, and one more thing. You, the taxpayers, you're funding this entire production. But there's no plot twist in this drama. It's all very straightforward. The Democrats hate Donald Trump. They don't just dislike the guy. They hate him. They decided to impeach him even before he took office. The case they presented to the Senate was embarrassingly weak. Therefore, they want to use the Senate to go fishing for more evidence by calling more witnesses. They have admitted to the jury that their case is lame. My message to the Democrats is simple. I listened to your case and listened and listened. It's absurd. Goodbye. Go home. We have an election in 9 months. Go give that a shot. But I will promise you this. If we end up having witnesses in the U.S. Senate, Joe Biden will be called to testify. And if that happens, he will be too cowardly to show up. But if he did show up, here's what I will ask him. Mr. Biden, why did you, as Vice President of the United States, threaten a foreign country and force him to fire a prosecutor who was investigating a company that was paying your son $83,000 a month? Also, Mr. Vice President, are you proud that you got away with that? And do you think the American people are that stupid? We all know what went on here. You are not fooling anyone. Thanks for listening. I want to go back to my diet of milk and water. Please send help.
Okay. I think he's so funny. I love that he did it's a campaign ad, paid for by, but it's also, this is a guy who is helping America, willing to say to America, this is a bogus nothing. And there should be all the rest Republican senators coming on board saying that too. But again, wrapping up the segment, word out of Washington, there is apparently, the GOP is now saying the Senate side, we probably can have enough votes to vote on no witnesses, vote to acquit, move on, even as early as tomorrow. Please let that happen tomorrow. It is time for the whole country to be done with this impeachment thing. I think the Republicans are fully aware. The Democrats have hurt themselves. They've made themselves look foolish. There's nothing to this. And I'll tell you, by the way, one last quick thing in this. There are actually 3 Democrat senators now being rumored likely to vote with the Republicans to vote to acquit the president, to vote to find not guilty. They are Senator Joe Manchin, West Virginia. He's always on the edge of being a Republican anyway. Kristen Sinema of Arizona and Doug Jones of Alabama, all 3 from states where they think Trump's pretty popular and they're not about to vote to impeach. So they're pretty clear on they're talking about likelihood they will also vote to acquit the president. One last thing, just for your entertainment, same guy you just heard speaking, Senator Rick Scott from Florida, who did that really funny video, we're being held hostage. I don't know, that just cracked me up. I think that is fabulous. But in any case, he sits, in the Senate hearing, at the Senate trial, the impeachment, you cannot have your phone with you or anything recording. And so, people, but they can leave and then they can retrieve their phone and send out tweets and texts and such. So there was a tweet sent out by this guy, Chad Pergram, and he was, I guess, in the Senate hearing, and he said, he got this comment from Rick Scott. GOP Florida Senator Rick Scott on trial. We saw that protester yell something bad about Chuck Schumer. I'm thinking about possibly doing the same thing, so the sergeant at arms will take me out also. This is ridiculous. We've heard the same thing 3 days in a row. So I'm a new fan. I mean, I always liked him, but I'm a new fan of the humor of Senator Rick Scott of Florida. Love that he's doing that.